Okay, hello guys. Another video, another crazy episode. Maybe my favorite of the series. It is hard to beat the finale of last season though. But I'm gonna start. Okay, for one, I like to take notes while I'm watching the episode, and I had a lot of notes in here about being like, wait, is it Helly? Is it not Helly? Wait. So obviously we get the reveal at the end that it's Helena posing as Helly, right? But I think it'd be fun to share some of my notes while the episode was going on, and me doubting myself and me also confident in myself. So the episode starts with Irving in a blizzard. Very confusing. And first thought was me thinking of the trailer. The trailer shows some snowy terrain, which is from this episode we do see. But there's a vast wilderness with cliffs, the cliffs that we see in the trailer. He's on a lake, and we see Mark shouting from above on the cliffs. He says there's a path to get up. And my first thought was, is this Audi Mark and Irving, or is this Innie Mark and Irving? Because obviously they know each other's names, so you think, okay, it's the Innies. But I was thinking that it could be a crazy twist. You're like, actually, it's the Audis, and they found each other on the outside, but us, the audience, didn't see. But it is the Innies. But Irving's on ice, on a lake, presumably. I think he's on a lake. He's trying to be careful, and if we get a shot of his shoes while he's walking around, I don't know what the hell those shoes are. But Helly's here too. She appears, and they called her Helly, so another sign that they're Innies. Which they are. There's no doubting it. And then Dylan comes out onto the cliffs, and it's weird that Dylan and Helly wake up on the cliff while Mark and Irving woke up on the lake. I don't know if that's on purpose. But there's a television at the top of the cliff with the theme song, Praise Kier, the Praise Kier song that Miss Cobell sang last season. It's the melody of that playing on the television.
Kier, brilliant one, Kier.
But they basically click it, I guess, and Milchek's face appears on the recording, and he says this is an outdoor retreat team building occurrence in Ortbo, O-R-T-B-O. And there's a lot of cuts. I think that's something worth noting in this video. They cut around a lot in the video, like whatever the final product was obviously cut a lot. But he explains this is the Dieter Egan National Forest. And my first thought was he must not be in the perpetuity wing, since Dylan did not recognize him. And as we learned, this is not a typical Egan, one of the Egans that we know of. It is actually going to be James, I almost said James Egan, Kier Egan's twin brother. We'll talk about that more in a second. But Milchek says that Kier dictated a fourth appendix at the end of his life that is forbidden on the severed floor. And he says, in Scissor Cave, it is waiting. This is the same grotto where Kier tamed the four tempers for the first time. And also that there will be help along the way. And I was also wondering right here is if this was the same cliff as this painting. They look similar to me. They could be the same area that the painting was inspired from. Then Dylan said, what the F is that? And there's a person that looks like Mark in the background, and for some reason it reminded me of episode 1 of season 2, where there's someone in the background behind Mark here that's in the background, and they say it's Mark. Not episode 1, they say this one is Mark, and it is a Mark lookalike. And this is Milchek's so-called help along the way. This is what he meant. But then we get the Severance opening, but it's not the classic opening. It just says Severance in the clouds. And I liked it. I like the art direction there. And they do feature the sun in the clouds a little bit here, off and on. And I wonder if there's some symbolism here, because it's intentional cinematography, or if it's just to, be cinematic. But symbolism kind of reminds me of heaven, if that means anything, that they somehow achieved what they perceive as heaven on the outside, something foreign to them, maybe something along those lines. Then there's another person that looks like Helly, and like there was one that looked like Mark, now there's one that looked like Helly, and leads them into a little gap, into a cave, where there's this little book light with the fourth appendix waiting there. And my question here at this moment was, how do we know this wasn't made after his death? Apparently this was made right before he died. We've never heard of it. How do we know this just wasn't under Kier's name to get some extra influence? I mean, it was weird. It might not have been, but it also could have been. But it explains how he had a twin brother, Dieter. I guess Dieter. And Dylan makes a consensus here that the lookalikes that they've been seeing must represent their twins. And the book explains that Kier and his brother ventured into the woods towards Woe's Hollow. And it's interesting because Woe is actually one of the Tempers. And I was thinking here that Irving has read like every page of Kier's Bible, basically. So he might be even though he doesn't like stay true to it as true to it as he did before, he might like having some new reading material. It's like watching the same movie over and over again, and now he has bonus scenes, even though he might not like the movie anymore. And I was also thinking here, this is what Dylan's actor meant by new locations. He said on one of the end credits that they're going to be filming in a lot of new locations this season. And this is definitely somewhat of what he meant. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now. You know, he deserves me to say his name. I'm going to look it up. His name's Zach. Yep, Zach Cherry. That is correct. I think Google. I remember that now. That's correct. Then we get a weird look here of Irving looking weirdly at Helly and Mark. Irving has been weirdly onto her this season, especially with the Night Gardener stuff, some looks in last episode. He don't exactly like vibing with her. He's not vibing with her this season. He's sus of her, rightfully so, as we know. And he asks Mark what they were talking about, and Irving says he doesn't trust Helly. And here a note I wrote down was, Irving is right. That was my note. And I believed in Irving that Helly was a little sus. And then they stumble upon an animal, and my first note here was, did they find a turtle? ? I don't think it was a turtle. But Mark says that it looks like a seal. And again, I'm wondering here, like, how does he know what a seal looks like? Like, how do they even know what those animals are, what they look like? We haven't exactly got stuff like that answered in the show. And I also got the thought here, what happened to reintegration? Like the end of last episode? Are we watching episode 4 with Mark already reintegrated? And the audience just not knowing and he's pretending? I think now that I've seen the full episode, I don't think so. I think Ragavi must have tweaked the reintegration a little bit so he doesn't remember, or the reintegration's still processing. Irv, out of nowhere, says we should eat it. So there's that. And Mark says, hey man, we know you had a bad experience on the outside. Irving looks to Dylan and said, what did you tell him, dumbass? It was kind of funny. But we get a last look at the animal here, and I think it was a seal. It looks like a little tail in the back. Poor seal. They then find Woe's Hollow area with all their twins atop the waterfall. Milchek spawns in and says that this is the tallest waterfall on the planet. And no, just definitely isn't. And he says, I thought the waterfall's grandeur would satiate you. And he's, oh, I'm only kidding. That's what he says. But then we get a closer look at like the twins, and these are uncanny as hell. Like, Mark's gotta be the most uncanny. Let me know in the comments below which one you think's the most uncanny. I think it's gotta be Mark's. Helly's is kind of weird too. They go to a little campsite that was made for them. The tents are MDR blue with freaking 4-ply in the outhouse. That's the most shocking thing of the episode, I'm gonna be honest. But then we go to Helly. I don't know. She says, wow. She doesn't say it like that. She says, wow. And my note I wrote down right here is, doesn't seem like her. It doesn't seem like a reaction Helly would make to this at all. I mean, maybe if she was being sarcastic, but she was not. I did not buy this response. But there's free torches, which is pretty cool. And Helly goes into Irving's tent with a snow seal that she made. I don't know when Helly would have learned that. Maybe Helena learned how to make a snow seal. Wait, maybe this is like a more revealing thing. Okay, I'll get into it more. But Helena likes being free, right? She likes the freedom of being Helly. And Maybe this is like some thing from her childhood that she used to escape. She would do crafts when her father wasn't looking. I don't know. Maybe, I mean, she's good at it. There's that. Helena's good at making that. She had to have practiced sometime, and I doubt her father would want her doing that when I pictured him as the guy that would say there's more important things to do. But anyways, why does her hair look black here? To me, it looks black or brown in this scene. I mean, it's obviously the lighting, but come on. I mean, I'm not the only one, right? Because I've had situations like this where my entire family has said I am wrong. I haven't watched this episode with them, so they don't. They can tell me I'm wrong or not. But am I wrong, guys? Can y'all tell me? Be honest. Be honest. Irving asks her what she really saw in the OTC, the overtime contingency, and she's like, oh, Night Gardener. And I wrote down a note here that said she is more composed. I swear I don't trust her. And it's true. She's more composed than Helly would be to being accused. And reminds me of Helena. Oh, wait, that's the note I wrote. Reminds me of Helena, especially with the way she says Irving. Right here, I'll play the clip.
Irving. Okay.
It's almost like she's better than him or addressing him like as his superior. It felt like Helena as we've seen Helena on the outside. That's what it felt like. Then we go to Miss Huang using an air instrument. Is this an instrument I don't know about? Another thing, guys, I need help. What the hell is this? She's moving her fingers through the air and it's playing songs. This isn't real, right? I don't think it is. But then it's story time around the campfire. Milchek says that Dieter's eyes popped out of his socket from pus in his skull, and that moss tore from his scalp where pus became sap. Then says that Kier went to the waterfall to drown out his brother's cries, found a gaunt bride half the height of a natural woman. Then it's picture time, just pass around the picture, and then says that the little woman spoke from her eyes and said that this is your doing, and now no one knows the brother, and the brother is now only Chaos's whore. Which I had to laugh out loud. It's caught me off guard. His brother is now Chaos's whore after he was churned into pus and sap. Also, I want to say something of note here as well. That is from the book, the fourth book, the fourth issue thing, whatever. It says the line is the din of his fervor after unfastening himself once concealed. Then talks about him thrusting and moaning and blending with the sounds of nature, that he then split his lineage upon the soil. And I said, what the actual F is that sentence? What the actual F did I just read? When, I don't know what the hell I read. I was so shocked in the moment. I literally replayed it like 5 times or something to make sure I was getting it right. And yeah, I mean, they talk about what it is, but it's I don't know if I can say it and not get ads, so we're gonna move on. But at the end of story time, Milchek makes sure they know it's the end by saying the end. I don't even know if they know that's how like fairy tales go, but he says the end. Maybe he'll start the trend with them. But Irving starts to question the truth, the sincerity of the story. Helly starts to laugh, and they talk about what his brother did stuff in front of his brother and then got punished for it. And she was laughing and whatnot. And my note here was, still doesn't seem like Helly. That was my note. I was like, okay, really? I mean, the laughing was something Helly would do, but it didn't seem like her. And then Milchek's like, I'm disappointed, y'all. I wanted a more thoughtful response. Then throws the freaking marshmallows into the fire. And you've lost me, Milchek. I had a little bit of faith in you, a small amount, but you've crossed the line, man. I don't see any coming back from this. This is it. Milchek has been written off in my book. I gave him some chances, but this scene was so freaking weird. I mean, we can talk about Miss Huang doing the instrument. I mean, the reading, the laughing. It was all just so weird. And then Irving tells Mark stop making goo-goo eyes, and he wants to know about the night gardener that Helena supposedly saw, or Helly supposedly saw. And Irving pulls out the "you're giving goo guys to Helly while your Audi's wife rots away." Then Dylan starts to turn against him. They all turn against him, and they're all mad at him. And then Helena says, "It's okay. We know he's been lonely with Bert gone." And my note here was such a Helena response. In quotations, so you can quote that. That was my note. Such a Helena response. The look, it was cruel. She knew exactly what she was doing, and then Irv walks into the forest. Then Mark goes into Helena's tent, and I wrote, okay, maybe Helly's tent. I don't know if I'm barking up the wrong tree. You were right. You were right, past Speedy. You were right. But Helly says she's sorry for being a distraction to his Audi's wife. And then Mark kisses her, and Mark has to be the one to take the initiative on the kiss. And so I wrote, okay, never mind, it's not her. So I was going through a whirlwind of stuff during this episode. I'll stop talking about the notes. I just wanted to share what was going on through my mind during the episode. But we go back to Irving as he patrols the forest with a fancy torch. And then the hands of Helena and Mark appear on screen when we transition to them in the tent, and they scared me. They jump scared me. I don't know if they jump scared anyone else, but Irving's shouting Milchek's name as he's going through the forest, and Helly and Mark are doing it in front of the heating lamp, which is nice, I guess. While Dylan's still there, and Miss Huang and what's his name, Milchek. I skipped around a bit, you know. I don't want to watch it really, but I mean, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't explicit at all. It was just kind of kissing, but I skipped around through it because I don't really care. But Irving drops his torch. Boom, gets his torch put out. Then Helly actually says, there was no night guard. I was just ashamed of who I was on the outside. And Hero's like, okay. If this is Helena, is she using the chance to be free? Because we've already seen this from Helena. She's jealous of Helly being so free with Mark. That I wonder if she is using Helly as a chance to be different, to be free. If she actually does feel some shame for herself on the outside and she doesn't like her life. It's something like that. She's kind of the adult and she kind of wants to go back to being a simple child. That's kind of how the comparison is there. But also, like, come on, you're gonna do it with Mark when you're not even the real Helly. He doesn't even want to do it with you, bro. Like, that's kind of messed up. Also, here I think is a good time to note all the times that I can think of right now that it was obviously Helena. Adam Scott said it'll become more obvious, and it definitely has. In episode 1, I believe it is, when they're all turning their computers on, you can see for a couple seconds she fumbles. She can't find her power switch for a few seconds. I'm just thinking of a spot here. I remember when Helly first came out of the elevator in episode 1 as well. Like, she kind of resisted hugging Mark. It was a weird hug. And then also last episode, the weird, awkward kiss, not a kiss scene, where Helena was definitely present there, like, not taking the initiative. Then Mark asks who she was on the outside that she's ashamed of, and says, I don't need an answer. And then Mark suddenly sees Miss Casey's face on Helly's face. So maybe there was a reintegration that happened, and he's not faking, he's not pretending, or maybe he is pretending. No, I don't know. Now I question if he's pretending, if he's already gotten the reintegration. He knows he's Audi and Innie Mark, and he's faking, and him seeing Miss Casey's face is seeping in. Or if he's already gotten the reintegration, but he doesn't know it, Innie Mark doesn't know it, and he's weirdly seeing something seep in. I think it's one of those two. Then we go to Irving, who wakes up with a suit on instead of the warm clothes, and my first thought was dreaming, ? That was my note. And yes, he is dreaming, but in his dream he finds their little cubicle, around in the middle of the forest, little bugs, I think, flying near a computer that go away once he sits down. He sees Bert creepily on the other side, and then sees the creepy lady from the story. The numbers on his screen start to fly around, letters as well, until the freaking girl jump scares him out of the dream. But it's a little difficult with the flashing and whatnot, especially for me. I can't really handle flashing stuff, but to examine this scene and the what this was. But I think what the numbers and letters formed into is an eye. It looks like an eye, like he's worried about being watched, like there's a mole. Maybe it's his subconscious suspicions of Helly. But he wakes up, and it made me wonder if Kier might have seen a dream that night too, that he says he saw this girl. Then Irving runs through the forest. Only Dylan and Mark are there at the camp, and Milchek runs out and he seems confused. He doesn't know where Helly or Irving are as well. And we go to Helly, who watches the waterfall fall down when Irv shows up. Irving says Helly was never cruel and asks who she is. It was such a crazy moment, and I was like, wait, was I right? And yeah, I mean, this was exciting for me, and I bet a lot of people. And he thinks that she is someone with power. Whoever sent her down here in her Audi form must be someone with power, so she must be a powerful person. Then he grabs her, brings her to the water, and says she's an Audi. He shouts and starts to drown her, demands that Milchek turns her back to herself. And then of course Mark and Dylan show up, and he shouts she's an Egan, and she gives it away. Helena gives it away by saying, God damn it, Seth, do it already. And Milchek obviously calls the remote and says, remove the Glasgow block now. She gets switched on command while she's in the water, and Irving says he's sorry, kind of like comforts her, and she doesn't know what's happening. This has got to be like her first time coming back after ruining that party or whatever, so it's been a while since she's back. But Milchek says, Irving, I need you to stand. And Hero's like, okay, please, if I ever needed anything, please, Irving, beat him up. We know he's been lying. We know he's been helping this Helena lie, this Egan. Please, everyone, team up, 4v1 him, beat up Milchek. That's what I wanted so badly in this moment. I've wanted them to, like, they've had opportunities to just not listen to him before, like the break room and whatnot. Or, like, I feel like I wouldn't listen, you know, like, go walk into the forest, like he will say in a second. I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. You're gonna have to kill me. That's pretty much what I do, and I wanted them to do that so bad. But Milchek says you will suffer an immediate and personal dismissal. And Dylan tells Irving he's sorry, that he should have listened. And Irving says, hang in there. And this is a reference to the poster that also says hang in there right here. That is for Dylan hanging in there in the finale of last season. And I wanted them to beat him up so much. But Irving walks up to him, and they have a stare down. And the note here was peak cinema. It's not peak cinema, but I mean, it was great. Irving's arc has been freaking amazing in leading him to staring down Milchek in the face. Like, I feel like these are rivals. I want them to have a fight. You know, that's what I want. But Milchek tells Irving to walk into the forest. And I mean, again, they're in a 4v1, beat him up, drown him, do something. And Irving listens. He goes into the forest, and Milchek says it'll be as if you never even existed or drew a single breath upon this earth. And then Milchek makes a command on the walkie-talkie to do it. Irving closes his eyes, and boom, but we don't see what else happens. It turns to black. So I wonder here if he switched him to his Audi, because, you know, that'd be awkward if he was suddenly his Audi. Or did he kill Irving or, like, shut him down? Kind of like they shut down Miss Casey or whatever. Like, we don't know what happened, because it would kind of make little sense to just have his Audi appear in the middle of all this kerfuffle. I wonder if they just, like, made him unconscious, shut him down, killed him. I don't know what happened. This might be like I said, it might be my favorite episode of the series, but I mean, it could be recency bias, but there's also no beating last season's finale, though, so I don't know. Also, did y'all love that elevator vibe in the credits? There was some, like, elevator music in the credits. It was pretty lit. Okay, but here we're gonna get to the after credit stuff, the quick notes here as they are. But Dan, the creator of the show, wanted to always do a mysterious how did we get here outside episode. By the way, whenever I do the after credit stuff, it's just stuff of note because we've probably seen. I'll just do what I thought was noteworthy. But Helly, the actor, Britt Lauer, says that they had fun doing this episode. That's nice, and that they had to talk with the scouted rangers of the park without disturbing anything. So they created a 1/4 mile long bridge out of scaffolding to film this. And this is actually Minnewaska, which is a state park in New York. And here is the waterfall area that they filmed at, which is actually featured, which is interesting. And I wonder how the park received the news that someone would be drowned here. But I mean, we got the episode, so that's cool. But then they also explain that outside was sort of a reason to not want to go outside. Them showing them the outside world, their first experience being snow, cold, in the wild, kind of depleted resources. They wanted to be like, hey, we brought you outside, but at the same time kind of make them feel like, oh shoot, maybe we don't want to go outside. So that was interesting. I didn't think of that. And Milchek says that it is indeed the tallest waterfall when he says that for them, which is interesting. And I think it's worth a note. I think it's Ben Stiller, the one that says that it's interesting that these characters are different in different environments and how that will respond. Not only like the cold environment, but the fact that like Helena grew up in her environment and how she will be different in this Helly environment, kind of a thing. They also explain that Irving in this moment when he kind of starts to drown Helena is Irving having less to lose. He has less to lose without having Bert, so that Lumen made a mistake there. And they also talk about the fact that Britt Heller pretending to be Helly as Helena was amazing. And I mean, it's true. It's amazing. You know, you could, if you look at it now, you can tell that it was Helena, but at the same time, I had to question it a little bit. But at the same time, it was a little more often Helly, but it wasn't quite Helena. And it was great. Great acting. And a great episode all around, guys. That'll do it for the episode. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. Please like. Subscribe if you're interested. I do this once a week, then I'll do The Last of Us next when that comes out in April. But thank you guys. Seriously, thank you guys so much for watching all the way through this video. And let me know anything you want to say in the comments below. As long as it's respectful. Let's keep it respectful, guys. Okay. Have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.